Well, welcome along to the last of the season, the podcast from the Shrimp Trust, ShrimpNet. It could be the last podcast ever about Morecambe FC. Who knows? Over dramatic? Well, you can never tell. I'm always hopeful. We might be back in the northwest counties. We could be playing Charlotte Richard in the playoffs this time next year. On the upside, that means we could probably get a beer and stand watching the game and have away games at Kendal Town, which would be rather nice. Mint cakes on a Tuesday night, taking 2,000 could be fun. Anyway, to discuss, we're going to talk about the season as a whole. Obviously, it's split into sort of three main parts. The initial Derek Adams fun and games, and then his departure. About a month where we sort of mucked around a bit and Jed came in and then got the job, and then till we go to the end of the season, we'll see how it goes. We can talk a little bit about the FA Cup run, but joining us, we have Joel as usual, and looking suitably chastened there is Rich, who can smile for the camera. We don't mind. And also wearing his very expensive looking earbuds, it's Jack Steer from the Shrimps Trust as well. At least you're wearing red, Jack. I'm impressed.
That's true.
So it's easy enough to start. Joel, we look back. I think me and you said anywhere around 12th and we'd have done well. I think we finished 15th. So we'll start and work backwards. 15th, not where we wanted to be, but given the 3-point deduction, wouldn't have made much difference if we'd have kept the 3 points. We'd have still have been 15th.
Yeah, I think when we were looking at the start of the season, we were looking at anticipating that we might have a chance of maybe keeping a few more of the loan players for the full season. Derek wouldn't leave in October or November or whenever it was, and we wouldn't be deducted 3 points and generally just have a bit of a stinking mood around the club for the final kind of month or two of the season. So yeah, I don't really mind taking the losing 3 or 4 places on the prediction we made at the beginning of the season. And ultimately, I think if you'd asked most fans at the beginning of the season, having a season where we were never really never at all in any threat of ever being dragged into a relegation battle, I think you'd take it, with the amount of crap that's been thrown at us. Obviously, we all know about the off-pitch stuff, but on the on-pitch stuff, Derek leaving and losing the loan players, and obviously in some way it is kind of inextricably linked to stuff off the pitch. But yeah, there's been a lot of crap thrown, but to kind of come through it is a credit to the start.
We're still smiling. We're still
smiling, sort of. Yeah, it's a credit to the start we made under Derek, and it's a credit to Jed for getting a few good players in January and that run of form that he had for the first kind of 2 or 3 months of 2024, when it's worth saying we went 12 matches with 2 defeats in the league. That's a really, really impressive feat. And yeah, it tailed off at the end. Small squads, inexperienced squads, bit of a shit move around the club, really. And yeah, it happens, doesn't it? But yeah, it was been really good overall on the pitch if you take into the fact that all the stuff that's happened off it.
And looking at, go back to the start of the season, Rich, we were not really expecting too much, or was that just us as a podcast? Was that you as a fan? Were you thinking, if we can get some decent loanees in, then Derek we could probably be more than the sum of its parts, which is probably how it turned out. Is that what you were looking for?
Yeah, I mean, it's my God, August, with everything that's gone on the football club, August feels like it was 8 years ago. Like, my God, like I can't even think how long ago it was now that we actually started the season and had these players in. And I think, I said it to Joel, I think, towards the end of the season, that if we'd have been bumming around somewhere around, I think a lot of fans thought, well, if we might bum around 20th, 19th, 18th, so we did no great deal of relegation, then we end up about 12th. We'd have taken that, but what's happened is that due to some excellent hires and some great stuff, in the building with the recruitment process of all the players we brought in the club, we went the other way around, didn't we? We looked like might get automatic promotion for about 5 weeks, and then slowly tailed off to 15th, which left it a bit of a damp squib. If we'd have gone the other way, you think about the season when Bentley got in Aaron Collins, Bennett, all that lot. When we went from there and then ended up about 10th, they thought it was the greatest thing ever, the best season we had in a while. We basically did that in reverse, didn't we? So yeah, that's my way of looking at it. Anyway, I think it's on the pitch. I think it's been a great year. You just turn around to us, so third round in the FA Cup, win all our local derbies, taking 2,000 people away from home, winning 5-0 away from home, 2 or 3-2 defeats, 2 or 3-2 victories when we were 2-0 down. I would have bitten your hand off with that at the start of the season. It's just unfortunately the owner doesn't deserve the football club he's got.
And that's possibly one of the reasons we're still smiling, because there have been plenty of highs. Most of the lows have come in fairly recent months. And in plain terms, Jack, I think Rich has just encompassed it perfectly there. Some absolutely fantastic loan signings. Greg Strong and Derek did the homework. No question, we any side in this division would have missed Michael Mellon, the form that he was in, but also Eli King. Connolly was a great loan signing who came in at exactly the right time. They did a fantastic job to get us in a situation where we went to, I think it was Barrow on the Tuesday night, and if we won our game in hand, we were in the playoffs. And of course, we never quite. We don't. I mean, me and Joel have been saying every single week, if we just win in our game in hand. I think we seem to have been saying it most of the season, Jack. But credit to Derek and Greg. They got together a decent team, didn't they?
They did, yeah. I think that's the thing this season. Isn't it? It just feels a bit like we never quite took that opportunity. We were there, we were close, quite a few times, but then seemed to take a step back. I think, overall, it's a season of two halves for sure. I think if we'd have kept all of those players in January, my view is we probably would have got in the playoffs. Certainly people like Mellon, who can just find the back of the net like he did, I think would have been that difference. Certainly a few weeks ago, we were heading for a points tally that would have got us in the playoffs. As you say, it's sort of fallen away over the last month or so. But how many of us sat there at Easter weekend and said, if we beat Accrington and Barrow, we're happy not to win another game this season? Well, it kind of happened, didn't it? But we got what we wanted. So no, plenty of highs within the season. We've ended up in a position we probably would have taken at the start of the season, ups and downs in between, but there's a lot more going on now, and that's certainly impacted the final run-in, hasn't it?
And coming back to you, Joel, it's been like I say, it was interesting that we did lose. Obviously, Connolly went back to his parent company, his parent team. Eli King was headhunted for. No, I don't blame Derek for that in Ross County. Obviously, Mickey Mellon went to Dundee. Obviously, Tom Bloxham's gone back to Shrewsbury and established himself in the first team there, which is great for Tom, and that's the way it worked for him. But anybody in this division would miss that. Even though they were young players, they were obviously of a calibre that suggested there was more to come.
Yeah, I mean, you look at Michael Mellon. I said it on Twitter the other week, actually. I think he's up there with Phil Jevons for the best finisher I've ever seen in a Morecambe shirt. And I'd actually say, to be honest, the range of his finishes really probably exceeded what we saw of Jevons a lot of the time, because he really did have, like, he had it all in his locker. He had the kind of cool slot it into the corner. He hit a couple from the edge of the area. You could catch the keeper out with kind of how he shifted the keeper's weight. He had the little dink finish and the kind of round the corner stuff. Like, he really had anything. I think everything, to be honest. I think the only thing we didn't really see him score was headers. But yeah,
and he could take penalties, and
I was about to say his name's Jevons Penn. Like, Jevons.
And obviously, like, penalties, it's a skill in itself. We've seen people who can hit a football incredibly well play for Morecambe. I think Cole Stockton and Kevin Ellison are the ones that spring to mind, who can strike a shot like nobody I've seen from Morecambe. But when it comes to taking the penalty, they just kind of wilt away. And then I think we've seen the second half of the season, you can't take finishing of the quality that Michael Mellon has for granted. I think, ropey finishing is part of being an EFL striker. And And I think with most strikers you get at this level, they're probably going to have a few ropey moments at the finishing. But yeah, Mellon wasn't that, and he was so clinical. And I think probably somebody else worth mentioning is Stuart Moore. Losing him for pretty much 2/3 of the season, that's massive. I don't think it can be underestimated because it's goalkeeping just isn't as sexy as goal scoring, is it? So I mean, you look at his underlying numbers, and I think in terms of like the metrics they use to kind of measure shot stoppers, he was best in the league. And I think from watching him, I think we can all agree with that. He was growing in confidence. He was starting to command his box a little bit better, and to lose that was a massive miss. And then people like Donald Love as well. I know he didn't have the best time maybe at certain points last season, but he's a quality footballer, and it would have been really handy to have him, especially under Jed as well, when his ability on the ball in midfield would have been really valuable, especially you could see the kind of football that we were moving towards, and especially with people like Jake Taylor, who was a fantastic footballer but needs to be rested, and we didn't really have any other option apart from him. So obviously, unsurprisingly, he broke down on a couple of occasions injury wise. So yeah, it's been a lot of challenges in terms of personnel being unavailable for various reasons, and a bit of jigging the squad about and mixing and matching and trying to see who can work where. And sometimes it's turned out that we've had people come out of not quite nowhere, but unexpectedly turn up and provide the business, and people like Charlie Brown, but other times it doesn't quite work out. So yeah, it's been a challenging one in terms of personnel, but I think we've done well to kind of keep where we maintain some of the performance levels that we have done.
And Rich, I think it's a fair point that Joel makes there, that Stuart, you can't underestimate the missing of Stuart Moore. And there's a couple of people that I'm straight away I'm thinking, well, not dissimilarly, obviously Derek departed and all the loanees disappeared. JJ got injured, and we sold Adam Mayer. So all of a sudden you've got 5 loanees, Stuart Moore, Donald Love, and Adam Mayer being sold, and JJ out injured. You've got and I think there was something like that from the game when we played Doncaster when we won 5-0 that you've already name checked. I think between those 22 players, there was only something like 5 or 6 on the pitch when we played them 3-4 weeks ago, which just shows you the changes in both sides. Ours obviously possibly for the detriment, and Doncaster's definitely for the worse. So I'm not making excuses. It's just we've had such a turnaround in the squads because of one thing and another. It has been like 2 separate seasons, hasn't it?
Very much so. Just before we mention Stuart Moore, Joel, what position did you play in football week in, week out?
Before the devastating finger injury.
Before devastating the injury, yeah.
No, it was the finger injury was the goalkeeping. Jesus.
Oh, yeah. Joel absolutely loves the goalkeeper, but that's neither here nor there. Yeah, we've got. I mean, I'm sure we'll go on to the stuff off the field very shortly. How many footballers have we used this year? 25, 26 tops? How many of those have been poor that we've, and you think about the Robinson era where we'd have 6 or 7 players, you call it Douglases, your Wes McDonald's, that just weren't good enough or didn't fit in. We have used every single penny of that budget to get players in that have all contributed all the way through the season. The 5 loanees we've got the first half, the 5 loanees we've got the second half. There's probably only, Ethan Walker, Jordan Iwula. They're probably the only 2 you can think of that didn't hit the ground running and move on and really add something to the team. What's happened this season to get us to where we are? It's no wonder that Accrington's taken one look and gone, yeah, we'll have that. Add to that, we're going to be probably top 10, top 7. It wouldn't surprise me to see them having to go to the playoffs next season. I fully anticipate that, unfortunately, all the ones that haven't signed new deals as a result end up there. And they're going to have a great crack at it next year. It's such a crying shame what's happened because, yeah, like you say, 2 hours of the season, but all the footballers we've brought in have been absolutely unreal. 2 or 3 of them would easily make our best ever 11. Joel Senior.
I know we were joking on the terraces the last home game of the season. We were joking on the terraces that the player of the season by some considerable margin was probably going to be Joel Senior, and then the sarcastic bunch that I stand with all said closely followed by Oscar Threlkeld and Cammy Smith.
Yeah.
Which I thought was quite amusing, really. And obviously, even Cammy ended up coming good and getting the equaliser at Swindon, bless him. So there's only really Oscar you can say. Oscar, where was he? I mean, he had a belt in 35 minutes at Swansea, didn't he, Joel?
I've got the shirt from that 35 minutes. I'd hasten to add.
I'd like to add it was a whole 90 minutes as well. Fair play to Oscar. It was a good disciplined performance.
Yeah. Well,
I've never seen Cammy Smith warms up like no other man. I've never seen him do over the gate thigh hip rotations over a football. No one does it better than him. but yeah, well, that's like you're saying. That's two. You can think of two and Geordie Hewula. They're the only three that haven't really hit the ground running. And how many have we signed? 20, 21? It's insane the job that our recruitment team have done this season. They deserve medals like Ben Sadler has today for best CEO in the division.
Oh, you see, you beat me to that there because I was going to come to that later, but you mentioned it. But
sorry,
I went to buy my season ticket yesterday because obviously the deadline was at 5 o'clock, and basically I walked to the club shop and I was like, "Oh, you're still here?" And they were like, "Yeah, why?" I went, "Well, every bugger else has left or is leaving." I was expecting to get another a job at Accrington Stanley's club shop or something, and so they were laughing at that. But when we come down to it, Jack, the money for Adam Mayer, reputedly somewhere between 350 and 375, so we're told. That's going to be invaluable to us in the short term as well as the long term. And good luck to Adam, because obviously a great product of the Drummy and Wayners School of Football.
Yeah, exactly. We've got to accept that's the position we're in. We have to be a selling club, don't we, to generate funds to be sustainable. I'm sure we'll come on to the financial situation and other off-field stuff as Rich sort of mentioned. But we've got to grow our own. We've got to bring these players through. And I think Jed's initial appointment was probably part of that as well. With his background. To further strengthen the links with the academy. Obviously, great to see at the weekend Adam Fairclough coming in and obviously scoring a goal in his debut as well. Hopefully he's the next Adam Mayer as well, because we need to keep them coming, keep giving them opportunities, and it'll benefit the wider club.
So, looking at the appointment of Jed, it was a lot of fans have called it the cheap option. I'm not sure it was. I think it was a calculated risk from the board, and there are people out there who are obviously still in the King Derek camp, which I understand. But obviously, he's chosen to leave twice for pastures new. Jed was sort of like he was naturally in position, Joel, and it seemed to be a good fit at the time. And apart from the last month, I'd say it was pretty successful.
Yeah, I mean, look, you can't really. Things with Derek. Derek's a fantastic manager. I don't think anybody can take away from that, and he's probably our best ever manager. I don't think there's any real qualms with that. But ultimately, he has left twice, and harking for him to still be in charge is not going to get us anywhere, because he left because of the financial situation at the club. I don't think Ross County was a particularly exciting or progressive career move for him, and didn't offer him much more aside from a more stably run club, to be honest. So, yeah.
Apparently, there's a really nice curry house in Dingwall, though.
Well, there we go. Maybe that's part of it. Maybe he's just a big curry fan. But in which case, he maybe can move to Manchester and stay in the Northwest area. But no, yeah. So him, like, it's happened. Maybe he comes back in the future. It wouldn't surprise me entirely if things get sorted off the pitch. But we'll have to wait and see, really. But Jed coming in, it's his first managerial role, and I think in that first month he's trying to get his ideas across, but he's also learning how to be that person in the number one role when it's kind of everything kind of ultimately falls on you, and you're the person who kind of when the buck stops and you've got to make all those big calls. So I think there was always going to be an adjustment period. But coming off the back of that, especially around January and February, I thought some of the football we played was really, really exceptional. When we got it right, I thought the heights of what we played under Jed was probably better than what we saw under Derek in the first half of the season. What I would say,
Tranmere away, particularly.
Tranmere,
We were absolutely fantastic.
after that ridiculous opening 10 minutes, the football we played was exceptional. Gilliam at home, I know we threw it away with some, with unfortunate goalkeeping errors from Archie, but the football we played, that was exceptional. I remember when we went playing against Mansfield, I know we drew 1-1, but we went right toe to toe with them.
Absolutely.
That was a fantastic performance. And, there's been some really, really good performances under Jed, but ultimately, I think on the flip side of that, I think some of the lows of the performances under Jed have dipped well below the standards that I think we would have probably seen from Derek in the first half of the season. Obviously, we had a couple of stinkers on Derek, obviously, but generally the lows in the Jed have been, I think, quite a bit lower. Mansfield away aside, but I think that's probably just part and parcel of being a new manager, and also it was a stretch squad that Jed had, and it was inconsistent because of the personnel change. Whereas Derek, it was pretty much the same 11 every week. So. Yeah,
the age of it as well, Joel. The age of the squad. Yeah, the young kids. Yeah, when the back's against the wall, they're not used to it, aren't they? And
no, exactly. I know
thing.
Derek had some young kids, but then on the flip side, I think Jed managed to top it a bit with some even younger people like Joe Adams. We were relying on Joe Adams for a long time as our main kind of creative attacking presence from the centre midfield. Kid's 19 and he's like played basically no. He's not played any senior football before coming here. At least I know like the likes of JJ and people are young, but they've had he's had a season in the National League, whereas Joe's not had anything, and we were reliant on him for quite a long time. And you could see his talent, but you could also see how raw he was up and down with his decision making in the final third, maybe just taking a little bit too long on deciding what to do. So, yeah, I think for me, I think some of the performance levels we saw from the Jed was really, really high, but then they dipped also quite low. And I think once we got into that rut at the end of the season with everything going off the pitch, it's a hard enough job for an experienced manager to turn around, let alone somebody it's his first season in the job.
So with the off-field shenanigans, obviously we've still got the well-documented, Jason Whittingham situation. We know he wants to sell, or we're told he wants to sell. We know he wants out. We're still in a situation where there have been quite numerous, between 6 and 8 interested parties who've all sat down at a table with him and then scuttled off. Whether that's down to Jason wanting too much or being unrealistic in his outlook, nobody can tell. But add to that the embargo, the 3-point deduction, the VAT problem. It's basically been a roller coaster of a season off the field. Obviously, we've already said Jed's disappeared off, scuttled off back to Accrington, and nobody can blame him. 3-year deal, and Andy Holt will probably make sure he gets his money every month. So it's equally important when you've got a wife and a family to look after. It's why people go to work, isn't it? Football. A lot of people do it for the love, but at this level, you do it to earn a living. All these things put into a tin hat, Rich. Basically, as I said at the start, we don't know what's going to happen over the summer. We do need a new owner. Be careful what you wish for. Obviously, we've had a situation where we've had Diego Lemos and Joseph Gala, hailed as the new messiah. Sabjot Johal. This is just a litany of people over the years. It's like an idiot's guide to selling a football club, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, myself and Jack, whenever we hear somebody mentioned with the club, I just enjoy that anybody linked to the club, that if we put him into company's house, it comes up with a person with a company with actual accounts and figures behind it, rather than 46 shell companies with 250 quid in, or whatever it is that Jack found over the time, and doing all the rest of it. I mean, it's you've got, obviously everybody's got their own opinions and no one knows the full truth of the matter, but it can only, for me, he obviously wants out because he can't afford to fund the club, because how many times have we been late on wages? It's always at the lastminute.com. Ben's, you know, bless him, he's gone to Walsall, and the reason must be the fact that, yeah, Walsall's not a much bigger club than ourselves, but like you say, young man, family, probably kids, all the rest of it. Yeah, people go to work to get paid.
Yeah.
And the only thing that this can be is that Mr. Whittingham's got debts more than what Morecambe Football Club's worth, and he's just trying to hawk it round to settle his own private debts, because that's where we're at. And the other thing we could ask is that there are bids on the table. But yeah, he's got a choice really. Does he want to bring the ship down with him, or take what he can get and run away? Yeah, and I don't know which one he'll do. But rest assured, I know the board are working on many plans for wherever this goes. We are as a trust, and we just keep going really.
And when you look at it again, Jack, we are still here. We're still alive and kicking. Just it has been suggested on this very, very podcast by one or two people who've come on from the boardroom that Jason could perhaps help himself by involving the board more in the discussion and the actual vending of the club. And up to now, he's not been willing to do that. But we understand that might be hopefully about to change, which, you know, whether it does or it doesn't, obviously, one thing we do know, it's currently not working the way it is it, Jack?
No, I think that's it, and it's a really difficult situation. And I think obviously we do want the board to be involved in that process, and they need to be. They know the club, you know, they can sell it to the right buyer. But at the end of the day, the decision comes down to Bond Group. You know, they own the share capital of the club. They decide who it's sold to. They decide when it's sold, and that's really the predicament we're in. You know, as a trust, we can liaise with the board, which we have done right throughout this whole saga. We can try and communicate with Bond Group, but if there's no response, there's very little we can do to sort of move the situation forward. I'd add into that the EFL can't do anything either. You know, the share capital of the football club is owned by Bond Group. They determine who it's sold to. The EFL can have a say in who's a fit and proper owner looking forward in terms of who he sells it to, but they can't force him to sell that share capital. So we really are in a situation where we're waiting for Jason and Bond Group to do something. And you know, as a trust, I suppose we're trying to plan several routes that could go down. Rich has alluded to some of them, but we really don't know, and that's the difficult situation. Something has to happen pretty soon. That's evident. But you know, in terms of having all the answers in respect of that, we just don't. It's down to one individual, one entity to get things moving.
As has been said probably a million times on social media in the past couple of weeks, we're not privy to the price that Jason wants for the football club. And we know also for a fact that the board are not aware of what price he wants for it either. So in a way, you know, how they're going to help with the vending of something that they don't know, they know its value, but they don't know what they're asking for it is again a bit ridiculous. But as has already been said, if he can't afford the wages when we're getting income from home games and we've still got stuff coming in over the season, then it is looking fairly likely that he's going to be struggling across the summer, Joel, which could mean, I hasten to add, I hope not, but it could mean we sink into administration. I mean, it's a genuine risk. We are surmising, but it's not that great a stretch to imagine it, is it?
Yeah, I think as we've kind of alluded to already, I think for me, Jason's actions have just kind of in many ways defied logic. And like Richard said already, you know, it's almost like the only kind of one of the only logical explanations you can kind of think of is that you know, he has so much debt he's need the player that he needs to sell the club for X amount, which is an unrealistic amount, and people are understandably unwilling to pay that. So But then on the flip side, where the kind of logic goes is, he's the longer he holds on to the club and the longer he is not able to sustain it properly, ultimately the club depreciates in value. When he initially was looking to sell, we were a League One club. I know we had a bit of a transitional summer under Derek after he first came back in, but we're a League One club. There was, potential for it to push on a bit more at the start of last season. Okay, yeah, we're back in League Two, but we've built quite a decent young squad. We've got some saleable assets and Adam Mayer and things like that. But now it's kind of rumbled on to the point where we are in a really precarious position. We've got one player under contract for next season. There's a couple in that hazy middle ground of will the embargo let it happen? And yeah, it's gone from you think surely the value of the club has dropped considerably over the past kind of couple of years as he's kind of faffed around with it and not got the sale moving. And in terms of administration, look, I don't think anybody wants it, but it doesn't look like he's got many options left in how he finds X amount of money every month to fund the club. So it's entirely possible. I think that administration could be quite soon, and I don't want it to happen. But if it's a way that it gets Jason out of the club and the administrators sell it on at a more realistic price, and yeah, it might be the thing that needs to happen. But it's something that obviously we do want to avoid. We don't want the points penalty. We don't want the potential kind of cuts at the club. But yeah, we'll just have to see how the next kind of month or two unfold, really.
I think just to add to what Joel said there as well is the club is loss making. That was publicised in the last set of accounts that went on public record. That's what we still understand to be the position from our discussions with the board of directors. So that means that someone needs to keep financing the club on a month-to-month basis, and Bond Group have been doing that. Okay, they were late with that money this month, which caused the issues, but they have been doing that. And not only is the asset value depreciating, but the amount of money they paid in to keep it going is going up. And there will come a point where, unless we have a big windfall from something else, that almost figure that they need to achieve gets higher and higher. And assuming they're borrowing it from somewhere else, they're not going to be able to repay that money. And that's the position that it certainly feels like at the moment we're getting towards, which will cause something to have to happen. So it's then what route that takes, and we, as a board for the trust, we've kind of tried to put out a document today to members to just sort of explain those possibilities. We don't know which one it'll end up going down, but that's kind of the position we're in, and it's just a case of sort of seeing really what happens.
And looking at you swigging your cold tea there, Rich, it's a 12-point deduction is not looking that bad to me for the start of next season, because a 12-point deduction would mean we're still in League Two and we're still surviving. And obviously, the big questions, we've already said Ben Sadler, CEO of the year in League Two, he will be a massive, massive loss. But we've lost the manager. Jimmy Bell has accepted the Clitheroe job, which I doubt is full time. So, but obviously, as Coley's right-hand man and the man who did the day-to-day at Accrington for Coley, people are saying either Coleman or get King Derek back or what have you. There's plenty of managers out there. The one thing we have got going for us is we are a League Two club. And despite having no money, a useless owner, no players, there's plenty of people out there who would give us a go, isn't there?
I'll start with the being a bit miserable and then work to a positive stint of how I see it at the moment. Anybody that wants to be employed by the football club in a football capacity right now wants their head testing. We have no budget. We have no CEO. We don't know whether the wage is going to get paid. We don't know what the budget's going to be. I've recruited 22 years. If somebody came to me with this job description, I'd throw it in the face. There's absolutely no way that anybody willing to take this job on is when a takeover administration happens, we probably want to get rid of them and get somebody in who we actually want to have in. This is where we are now.
The only thing I'll say to that, Rich, is you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
And from your professional point of view, you're absolutely right. But the rules go out the window. This is bloody football, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's the difference.
The positive side of it is that, and it's all on Bond Group, Jason Whittaker now. Yeah. The only thing you're selling is the only difference between this club in administration and this club as a going concern is the fact it's not got a minus 12 deduction, and you won't have an embargo to sign the players. Yeah, that's all he's selling right now. So he's got to turn around and say, do I want more blood in my hands? Do I want a second community asset, a second time where I can't show my face? Or do I want, or am I going to let go to administration and hope that between now and the end of the month, somebody rolls a double six, wins Euro Millions, and gives me the money to get out of jail? Yeah, that's where we're at. And I just hope that it goes, we've got to get the ownership situation sorted out, get it into administration if that's what it is, or get a new owner there. At that point, we can start talking about new managers, new CEOs, because they know where they're going to go. There's a very real chat. If we go into administration this month, that gives us a month or two to sort it out, which means we'll come out the embargo. We can sign some players along with a few kids, similar to what Bolton did. And then, Morecambe, we love a fight. We absolutely adore a fight. Imagine how much fun it'd be saying, right, come on, we've got to get to 60 points, sing them all the way home. Churchillian spirit, all the rest of it, and get it over the line, get to 60 points and win it. And my God, the party we'd have at the end of it will be like the one we had when we went up to League One. It can be done, but we have to sort out this first bit first, because I just don't see why anybody in their right mind would take a team on where the budget is quite literally nil. Sorry if that's too negative.
No. I'm just saying, but logic goes out the window though, because it's football. There'll be literally. Jed resigned on Monday. I bet you there's 10 applicants already on somebody's desk, somebody at the club already, because it's an opportunity for somebody, Jack, and they don't see the negatives. They just want to say, I want to be a manager, don't they?
Exactly that. Yeah, there's only 92 positions in the Football League, so there's going to be people out there that want it, regardless of the situation. Hopefully things do get resolved pretty quick, and or some clarity over the situation. We need that pretty soon. Things need to start moving.
Didn't Graham Wesley invest in Stevenage? And Graham Wesley got a few quid. That sorts both problems out with one stone, doesn't it?
Yeah. It creates another one then in having Graham Wesley as your manager.
Yeah, therein lies the problem. And I always like the Graham Wesley story when he refused to move when he was manager of Preston, and he was coming up on the train, and the only person he could get a hold of, the only person who answered the phone to him at Preston was the chef. And he asked the chef to can you get down to the changing room and tell somebody to take training because my train's delayed. And he asked the bloody chef. And I'm like, that's fantastic. So, yeah. It's the only thing I'll say, and I'm not being negative at all, is that if we start planning, we start planning for next season now, it's a blank piece of paper, and you can't, as Richard already said, you can't really write anything down, can you? Right, what do we need to do? Oh, right, yeah, can't do that because, oh yeah, can't do that. It's an impossible situation, Joel, and I'm not trying to be negative, but it's like there is no, it's the old adage, isn't it? Is that light at the end of the tunnel, or is it just a bloody freight train hurtling towards us?
Yeah, in terms of attracting managers, I think John Coleman would have one hell of a chip on his shoulder and a point to prove to Accrington Stanley and Andy Holt if he was to decide to take the take the job here at the
John
moment.
Coleman used to complain that his budget at Accrington wasn't big enough. Like,
Yeah, no,
you look at a fifth of the game here right now.
And he had 36 first team players this year. 36.
Yeah. It could be a tricky one to marry at the moment. Let's be perfectly frank about it. So yeah, we'll just have to see where the manager hunt takes us. Well, like you say, it is difficult to see a way past kind of like Rich and Jack have said. Like, it's difficult to see a way past this next month where we need to see the ownership situation sorted, because until that's sorted, until we have a budget and until we can kind of clearly strategize what kind of manager we want and let them choose the players, we're not really. I don't think we're really at that point yet. I think ultimately it needs the stuff off the pitch, the ownership stuff needs sorting out, because it's just we've seen over the past year we've had two managers quit with the head of recruitment leave. We've had our CEO leave and seen a massive turnover in players. And look, it's quite clear that the environment, the conditions created by the ownership of the football club are very, very difficult to work under, and we're losing good people from the club. It's going to be hard to attract good people to the club who are able to plan on the footballing side of things in the current state that we're in. So I think ultimately the priority over these next few weeks is that we have to get the sale sorted, whether it's by a bid comes in and last minute and Jason is under enough pressure to sell, whether it's by administration. I don't know, but it needs something, really, doesn't it?
The only upside is that Ed Chef's not left, and he could probably do training while he's making pies. So there you go.
I mean, the one thing I would really labour on here is that this football club is more than Jason Whittingham, everything that, and all the things we've already mentioned. The thing I mentioned on a radio interview this week, they're saying, the club's been on sale for 18 months. It hasn't. It's been on for sale for 7 or 8 years. We've been here for this long, that if we get through the administration process, we get through what's going on, it is, to quote Brexit, sunlit uplands strategy. Things that we can move forward. We're getting 4,000 at home now every week in a club that has been in turmoil for this long. If we just get these next 2 or 3 weeks out of the way, the only way is up.
I like the way you've turned the Brexit uplands, the sunlit uplands of Brexit, into a positive there. That was very clever. Yeah.
Well, I nearly mentioned Yaz and the plastic population, but I didn't think that most of our listeners will get the reference.
No, there's probably plenty of old people listen to this. And I'll close now in the fact that obviously, as has already been said, we've got Charlie Brown, insert your own peanuts joke here, only on contract. Looking at that, there's some great fixtures next year, with Fleetwood coming down, Carlisle and Barrow still being. I felt a bit sorry for Barrow at the end, but there you go. This is what happens.
I didn't.
I did not. I definitely did not.
No.
It was one of the few things that made that weekend not miserable. Come on, we've had a really tough couple of months. Give us something. I think the gods of football decided to
the nightmare of Holker Street, Joel. The nightmare of Holker
Street. What's it? The only shot on target in the entire game and he scored. But anyway, my point was we've got some great fixtures next year. Should we be able to fulfil them? But the other thing that it's sort of like straight away, I'm like, Carlisle, Fleetwood coming down. Carlisle will probably, they're an idiot. They're hardy idiots if they don't move for Joel Senior, because they shouldn't have let him go. And people like Big Faz, etc., all moved around the area. So they're now settled in the area, kids in school. Fleetwood, any team like that, they're all nicely placed. They actually, despite Fleetwood's owner being in prison, Barrow's owner's being in America, Carlisle owner's being in America.
How is ours the worst out of that?
Yeah, I was saying, they do pay them. They do pay their players. So, I can see, and I wouldn't blame any of our players whatsoever for moving to those teams. Because the simple fact is we've got quite a lot of Manchester-based lads. So it's easy enough for them to go and train with Barrow, because they only stay overnight in Barrow, and probably get their heads kicked in as well the night before a game. But there you go. So the point I'm trying to make is that most of our squad will probably easily sort out a contract somewhere else at very, very local rivals, Joel. And it's not something we'd like to see, but I wish all the lads well, because they've given their all.
Yeah, of course, I wish them well. I mean, at the end of the day, I'd like to think people like Joel Senior are going to have a a better move than that. To be honest, I'd like to hope that if they do move on, I think he's more than earned a bit of a look in for a League One side. Maybe someone going up, maybe somebody like Stockport or something like that. Complete his tour of Manchester. But yeah,
Joel
look,
Senior was spending a lot of money in Selfridges on Deansgate on Monday. I can tell you that much for free. It was a bit perturbed that I was staring at him, going, "Is that Joel Senior?" But yeah, he's definitely signed somewhere for a lot of money.
But
fair play.
Well, and that's the thing. Look, we don't know, and to be quite honest, I long for a day when we can return to getting wound up by who our players might sign for at the end of the season. I honestly, I'd like to be feeling wound up and angry and annoyed about it, but I'm not. I don't really mind or care at the moment, because the thing, it kind of pales into into comparison with the situation that we've got at the moment, and that's ultimately the thing that needs sorting, really.
And I think that's probably it, really. It's survival would be lovely. Administration, though, 12-point deduction, I'd take it. I would take it, because it's not costing me any money. But I feel sorry for the club's debtors, who are going to get probably 25-30p in the pound, if that. So it's not a happy situation. But ultimately, I think you're right, Rich. We've been for sale since Peter McGuigan tried to, get the shysters involved in, Diego Lemos and Joseph Carla and any other idiot who was willing to come along and pretend he had money. But look at it in plain terms, Jack. Final words. It's been a shit show, and I don't mind saying it's been a shit show, because it has, and we continue to be a sideshow for all the other 91 league clubs to look at and go, that's how not to run a football club. That's ultimately, it's got to change, Jack.
Yeah, it's got to change, and unfortunately, it might get worse before it gets better. But I think beyond that, we have been a fairly well-run club here locally. It's the ownership situation that's overshadowed everything. So, that will have to change. It will change somehow, some way. So, yeah, it's going to be a difficult summer. There's no doubt about it. As you've alluded to, if administration happens, it's something that we everyone's wanted to avoid. It's not nice having that hanging over the club, hanging over the employees of the club, who will all know, plus local suppliers. It'll impact the community. There's no doubt about that. But something needs to happen. We can't have this happening every summer, which it feels like it's been going on for too long now. So we'll see.
And on that happy note, I don't think there's anything we can add, really. We could sit here surmising and shooting the breeze until the cows come home. But as it stands, we're all a little bit in the know. We've all got our own ideas. We all know what we'd like to happen. And I think it's all encompassed by, keep buying the lottery tickets, isn't it, Joel?
Pretty much, yeah. We've just got to hope that something gets sorted quickly, because we're already in a difficult position for next season as it is. So hopefully that can be minimised by swift action over the next few weeks.
And ultimately, if we are back again, which hopefully we will be.
Oh, we will be.
Well, yeah, we'll be back again. Yeah, we'll be back again. Hopefully we will be. We might not be talking about signings or a manager, but we will be back. And we'll see how we go. Try and enjoy this summer. There are the Euros to look forward to. And England have got if Gareth picks a half-decent squad, it could be quite an entertaining tournament if he learns how to attack teams instead of getting cautious as soon as we go goal up. But that's just me. But Here's to Cole Palmer and Foden and Saka all being in the top scoring charts in the Euros. My thanks to Jack from the Shrimps Trust, also to Rich from the Shrimps Trust, and also to Joel from the Shrimps Trust, and me, just a humble member. This has been ShrimpNet, the final podcast of the season. Have a great, great summer. Hopefully we'll have some nice weather. And we may well be back in end of July and early August talking about friendlies where we're asking for you to bring your boots because you'll get a game. But who knows? You never know. We might somebody might throw the 666, as Richard said, and we might have a new owner by then. It'll all pan out in the wash, as my gran used to say. Thanks for listening, and we'll hopefully see you next season.